Welcome back to the channel. I'm Kevin, and today I am making a little jewelry box that looks like a chest from Stardew Valley. Normally, I post my projects at the end of the month, but I moved my schedule up to do this as a special Valentine's Day surprise for my wife, who really enjoys the game. There were a lot of twists and turns along the way, but it turned out really nicely in the end. So I started by recording myself in the mines. The chest designs are the same as in Skull Cavern, but you don't have to guess as to when you'll be seeing a chest. In GIMP, I put together a reference and sketched out the measurements. This is pretty easy with pixel art. I had a good idea of the overall dimensions I wanted, so I divide that by the pixels on each side, and that got me most of the way there. I just did a bit of rounding as needed. I put this together in Blender pretty quickly. The square portions were relatively easy, but the curve of the lid took me some time. Originally, I was going to use a metal rod as a hinge. I've been toying with this idea over the past year, and made this concession because my 3D printer wasn't precise enough to 3D print hinges. In the last couple of months, I got a Bamboo P1P, which can definitely handle 3D printed hinges, but I already started on this project, so I left the design as is. Unfortunately, this didn't open or close properly, so I scrapped that design and went back to Blender. I reworked this using a 3D printed hinge I found on Thingiverse. I'll post a link in the video description if you're interested, and I will be tagging this as a remix. Version 2 failed during printing. I had a hollow section in the lid for no particular reason, but evidently that caused some problems. It was quick to remove, but I am glad I got to play around with this failed print. It was enough to show me that the hinge worked, but it was a little too tight and the lid didn't want to stay down. I went back into Blender and spent maybe 15 minutes adding an extra 0.5 mm to the hinge, as well as some holes so I could embed magnets in the lid to help keep it closed. If you're modeling your own prints, I recommend you check if they're manifold and repair them if they're not. Pretty much everything I make needs to be repaired, but it's an easy fix, so I don't stress it too much. I did a few rounds of sanding and wood filler. These curving pieces weren't as smooth as I would have liked, especially since this is supposed to be a gift. Right as I was about to start painting, I noticed the hinge was slightly larger than the back of the lid. That's the kind of detail that's going to keep me up at night, but I'm not redoing everything at this stage. I updated the files so you won't have to live with this issue. I painted this with some acrylic paints. For the reddish brown, I mixed in a bit of copper metallic paint, maybe 10 to 20%, and it gave it a nice extra bit of depth. I slipped up as I went and had to go back and do touch-ups at the end. This ended up taking me way longer than I thought. I probably spent 4+ hours on this over 3 days. It's not very big and the details are pretty simple, so I thought it would be quick, but there's a deceptive amount of work since every face is packed with details. I sprayed this with some clear matte sealer to give it a nice shine. I planned to give this plenty of time to dry, but since I was behind from the painting, I only gave it a couple of hours. Some of the clear coat was hanging off, which didn't look great, so I shaved it down with a knife. This was totally my bad. I glued a square of regular black felt, the kind you could get from any craft store for maybe $1 a sheet, onto the bottom of the chest with some tacky glue. This adds a nice touch, and because of the printing orientation, the bottom looked horrible, so this saved me a lot of finishing work. That finished off the project, and I gotta say, it looks pretty great. The hinge was a big win, and this is one of the more polished things I've made. I definitely made some mistakes, which are gonna bug me, but I don't think they're super obvious to anyone aside from me. I gave this to my wife the other night, and it was a huge success. Originally, I was going to put a small necklace in the box, but at the last minute, I decided to 3D print a blue cowboy hat. We had a good laugh because she does have truly terrible luck when it comes to Skull Cavern, and then I gave her the necklace, so all in all, a very good Valentine's Day. If you enjoyed this project and want to make your own, I'll post all the files on Thingiverse. There'll be a link in the video description down below. If you enjoyed this video, then please like it and let YouTube know it's worth watching. If you enjoy my work, that's great. I post every month and have for a few years now. If you want to be notified when my new videos go live, then go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Until next month.